Homage to the Buddha, homage to the Dharma, homage to the Sangha. Is the sound okay? Yes. Okay. Some of you might have noticed my change of venues since last night, and part of it was because of the tech, but I also felt called just to come into Zen West and warm this space and broadcast from here. So someone asked me, was I commuting back and forth every day? The answer is no. I'm here for the duration. And just want to say welcome to everybody. When I'm in town, you now appear on the big screen before me, and you're very interesting on the big screen. I'd rather be watching you than Netflix, really. So here we are on our first day of Rohatsu. Welcome to those who are just joining tonight. I hope that our energy is shared outward and you are enveloped in our common aspiration. It is such a joy to sit Rohatsu together. I think I sometimes take it for granted all the retreats we do, but Rohatsu in particular is a real rite of passage for any Sangha. Sanghas go through developmental stages, and having their own Rohatsu is one of them. It says something about the seriousness and the maturity of both of our Sanghas, and so I want to honor that we are here together, despite the odds of a pandemic, online, and sitting deeply. There is, in Rohatsu, there is a sort of a beautiful blend, at least my experience, of deep seriousness. There's a lot of gravitas when we point towards what's most essential. And coupled with that, the most surprising joy and ease. Isn't that wonderful? Together. During Rohatsu, the gates are flung wide open. And this time of year in December, so beautiful, especially as I drove in this morning past Fern Ridge, where the clouds were hugging the distant hills and so many subtle colors of gray, white and off-white, dark colors. It's conducive for us to releasing ourselves to Zazen. We don't have the summer distractions and the ways we're called outward. To releasing the self in Zazen. Releasing our burdens, our worries, our obsessive habit patterns, releasing our plans and our fantasies, releasing our complaints, releasing the idea that something is wrong with this world, releasing the idea that something is wrong with us, something is lacking. And we sit and listen to this poem that says, in darkest night. In darkest night is perfectly clear. It is clear when the mind is freed from its usual carving up of the world. And after that carving up, the clinging, the pushing, and the pulling. So in this session, I'm delighted, it was Mushin's suggestion, my creative Dharma sister here, to study Tozan's Precious Mirror Samadhi. And I am very interested to swim in it with you. It is called the Song of the Precious Mirror Samadhi, the song. It's singing. It's singing all the way back from 9th century China. It's singing back to the original Buddha and the Buddhas before that Buddha. It's a song. It's a song that tells us about the Buddha's night under the tree. And for those of you who were with us last year, you might remember how we walked the Buddha's footsteps. And in his night under the tree, before he awoke, something called the fourth watch, he opened up to this precious mirror samadhi. After he sat long and hard, after he released everything and battled his demons, he entered the fourth watch, the precious mirror Samadhi. So this song, just for those who might not be familiar with it, condenses an entire lifetime of practice. If you read it closely, it has medicine for every condition. And I encourage everyone to just see what touches you as we chant it every day. You don't have to track it in order. Early in my practice, and it still kind of catches my heart, the line that says, "It is not a matter of delusion or enlightenment." My heart wrenches a little, and I feel released. It spoke to me about some way that I thought I had to accomplish some phenomenal spiritual feat in order to wake up to the truth. I felt released and still every time. So this poem, it begins with a profound opening, with an opening into this Dharma of thusness. And it goes on to talk about failure, the mystery, talks about the dance of emptiness and form. It gives some very sound advice and includes images of grace. It embraces all of us as students with all of our karmic variations. And it even sorts out sectarian conflict, all in this one poem, this one song. And it concludes with the freedom that is found with continuous ongoing practice, continuous ongoing practice. But I want to go back. It's very interesting that the poem starts with the profound opening. Now you have it, preserve it well. That's kind of interesting, isn't it? It starts with the opening. Unlike the usual way that we tell these openings, that the Buddha strived long and hard to reach his awakening, it's a different kind of story. It begins with the opening. And you might think, well, you lost me right there. I'm planning on that much later after long and hard practice, if ever. But I want to challenge that idea, that we too challenge the idea that we are not beginning with the opening here in Rohatsu. My teacher was very firm about this. Whenever anyone shared a glimpse, a moment of peace, a dropping off of a karmic pattern, he would say the same thing. Don't dismiss that. All openings partake of the great matter, each and every one, each glimpse. So when we come to Rohatsu, we are riding on those hundreds and thousands of glimpses in our heart, our experience. Even as we read and say, I know something here is deeply true, we begin with the opening. We begin here. It's said that the mind that seeks the way is the mind of Buddha. When we bring a wholeheartedness to the path, that's how the path opens up, step by step, and no other way. Now you have it, preserve it well. Now we have it, preserve it well. I want to turn to this image of the mirror, facing a precious mirror. Form and reflection behold each other. Facing a precious mirror, form and reflection behold each other. As I pondered this, I thought, what a perfect image, a mirror. So interesting. Because usually, I don't know about you, but my experience of mirrors, I usually that they are the handmaiden of delusion. One mirror is the one that we constantly primp and prep we gaze into to make sure that we're matching our idea of who we think we should be, right? How am I looking? How am I looking based on something outside of myself, whether that's cultural, gendered, even the world of how am I looking as a Buddhist? That's one kind of mirror we're familiar with. Another mirror I'm reminded of is one Kyogen told me about, and I had a little experience of that today. Kyogen was a big dreamer. We shared that love of dreams. And one of the most powerful dreams he had once involved, I don't know if they have these anymore, but a fun house. They still have fun houses where you go in and they have mirrors, facing mirrors. In each one, I remember going with my little sister, right? Makes you fat, makes you really tall, kind of makes you triplicate. And it's a lot of fun. And his dream involved being in a kind of nightmare in that setting, in a hall of mirrors in which he could not get out. And he said that he went back and forth, and out of great energy or desperation, he yelled, "Katz," which is a big Zen, "Ha!" And he pierced through the wall of those mirrors. It's a time where he was efforting and sitting deeply. But it's good to look at that quality of our mind. I shared with a group earlier, as I was sitting, there was a conversation outside and the neighbors that were muffled. And I couldn't quite hear what they're saying at all. But I developed a really elaborate story. It was about the tree that went down in their yard, and they were angry with me and they were going to knock on my door. And what would I do if they did that during sesshin? And maybe I should call them. whole story, right? Our minds need the littlest input to develop an entire elaborate hall of mirrors in which we're trapped. That's what we experience and study. Or as Mushin more kindly put it, the marketplace, right? So many thises and that's. Those are the mirrors I'm familiar with. But I want to read you a story, short couple of paragraphs here, about a different kind of mirror. And this involves the teaching of myth. And it's out of a fascicle that I wasn't that familiar with, just ran across last week by Dogen, called Old Mirror. And it's about Kayashata. So tomorrow we will chant Kayashata's name. He's the 18th ancestor in both our lineages. And it goes like this. Venerable Kayashata, the 18th ancestor, was a man from Madhya, India. His name was Udaka Ramaputta. His father's name was Heavenly Canopy, and his mother's name was Sacred Direction. She had a dream of a great deity looking into a large mirror. Soon she became pregnant, and in 7 days she gave birth to Kayashata. At birth, Kayashata's skin was like polished lapis lazuli. Before he was bathed, he was naturally clean and fragrant. He always liked to be quiet and spoke differently from ordinary children. He was born together with a clear, round mirror. This was extraordinary. Born together does not mean that the round mirror came from his mother's womb. Kayashata was born from his mother's womb, but at the same time of his birth, this mirror appeared spontaneously close to Kayashata and became his everyday companion. This mirror was not ordinary. When the boy approached, the mirror would stand up, as if it were being held by his hands, and reflect his face. When he went away, the mirror would follow him, reflecting his body. When he slept, the mirror would cover him just like a flower canopy. When he sat up, the mirror would be in front of him. Thus the mirror accompanied the boy in all his activities. All the Buddha teachings of the past, present, and future could be seen in the mirror. Every aspect of heavenly and human affairs was clearly reflected in the mirror. The mirror could reveal any teaching, ancient or current, more clearly than the scriptures. However, when the boy left home and received the precepts, the mirror disappeared. People near and far admired these extraordinary occurrences. Interesting. When he received the precepts, the mirror disappeared. The mirror in this story is the one that we are born with, that we are endowed with naturally, that has yet to be inhabited fully, expressed fully. The mind of a human being is a mind that creates world with objects out there. And I love how neuroscientists now know this is a complete fabrication, as the Buddha knew, that when we gaze at the world, we develop approximations to match what we see. Our minds create a best guess at what's out there and then say it's out there as an object. And we are in here as a subject. But this mirror contains all. Our original mind is a form and reflection beholding each other. The bird sees me, the tree sees me. At the same time, I am seeing it. No separation. One of the first steps in developing samadhi, concentration practice, in the first jhana state, is to withdraw the mind from its usual involvement with objects to the mind in the first jhana state stops going out there. And we can watch this in Zazen. When I heard the neighbors talking, my mind went out there. But in samadhi, when we develop a one-pointed awareness, we expand to encompass the whole universe. There's no going in or out. It is intimately conveyed. I want to talk a little bit about samadhi. And bear with me, because if you really saw what I'm reading from, you would laugh. You should have seen some of my notes. It's very, very interesting. Things are crossed out, little doodles in the side. But I do have an intention. I do feel, as Mushin and I had a hope that we would be walking together into this samadhi. I want to say a few things about it and have a short reading by Kyogen. There are two kinds of samadhi. For the purpose of this treat, I'll say that. The one kind of samadhi is the samadhi that we effort for. It's important. We spend a lot of time developing samadhi. And you might think, oh, I've never done that. But any amount of concentration is samadhi. We could just call it that. Any amount of time spent moving the mind into the present is partaking of samadhi, concentration into the present moment. And of course, there are degrees, there are qualities. And perhaps some of you have tasted these qualities of this developed samadhi. The mind quiets. It doesn't mean thoughts aren't present, but they don't proliferate. They don't grab our attention. The mind is present, flexible, pliable, open, ready, awake, not wired, but awake, still. And more there's equanimity, no judgment, an ease and a peace. And sometimes these samadhi states are accompanied by energy releasing, a rapture, a bliss, a joy. a quiet peacefulness. It's refreshing to swim in these spaces. That's a developed samadhi. It's what I do on the cushion every time I sit down. Bring the mind, find an object of concentration, begin slowly to let the mind settle. But it's something one can't force. There are times when our mind is very agitated and the storms are riling. The ocean, there are a lot of whitecaps, and we just go with that. We just are patient and welcoming whatever's there. That's the samadhi you enter and exit. It's a state, it's a conditioned state. But the samadhi that we're talking about at this retreat is related, but actually it is one that realizes you, that gains you. It's a samadhi beyond self that we can taste, we can wake up to, but its import has more to do with insight than any state that comes and goes. So I'll read a piece from Kyogen's book, and those in our Sangha are studying this during Ango. And I have not read all the chapters, so this one also just came to me this last few days. I was glad to open it. It's a chapter on Kensho. I'll just read the first paragraph. Huayan teachings say that when we sit really still and the mind gets calm, we awaken to ocean mirror samadhi. This is described as an awareness as vast as an ocean and completely still. Awareness becomes like a vast mirror, a mirror so vast that it can hold the entire universe in it. Everything appears at once. All the different types of beings that exist in this world are present in that vast, great awareness. We call this one mind awareness in the Zen tradition. We say mind and universe are not two. It means essentially that we sit in a place of original mind, which is the same as the universe itself. It's like the universe aware of itself. It's Kyogen's chapter. Ocean mirror samadhi. Ocean mirror samadhi. These stories and descriptions are just reminders of who we truly are. We are born with this mirror. Anyone who looks into a baby's eyes knows this mirror. We are endowed, it is vast and round and contains everything. We intuitively see into the depth, the nature of all things. This is our original mind. And in Sesshin, we necessarily make the effort to return again and again, to open up to this truth. We have a choice, we cannot make it happen, but we can let go profoundly, to be easy, to release the burdens we carry, to clear away whatever blocks this bright mirror. One must have faith in one's practice to do this. One's faith is what opens us up to the truth of this mirror. In Sesshin, we take up wooden man practice. We take up stone woman practice. Or I'll have to add, we'll take up bronze non-binary practice. Wooden man starts to sing. Stone woman gets up dancing. At some point, only myth and image, symbols, poetry can speak to it. But I would guess that we are all here because we do know it. We do know it somewhere. We do know what our capacities are somewhere. And it's that faith in that is singing to us in the midst of Rohatsu, singing to one another. So please have faith. Do the, what do we call it? The calisthenics of Samadhi with joy. Just bring the mind back, brush away, get quieter and quieter in the darkest night, quieter and quieter, and see what arrives. See what stone man you see dancing. This is our natural state, and this samadhi gains us. Thank you, precious mirrors. For those who are, let me see.